All right, we had lots of great things this time. Before I get going with what all we did, just want to thank again everybody who contributed this month. We had contributions from Bywater, Equinox, PTFS Europe, CW Mars, and Nashville Public Library. So thank you everybody for contributing. It makes Aspen what it is. Let's see. This time we won't go through everything. So of course, like we always do. Um, we had a couple of little patch releases. We did discover some after the upgrade from to Solar and Java. There were some oddities that we had to jump on and work on. So there were a few little things related to that. And of course, as Jordan always talks about, partner priorities. So um, lots of things related to different ILS updates. So you'll see here we had a 240201 that was a little bit of Symphony and Cersei, or Sierra and Symphony things. We had a 2402 with like some Palace Project stuff, some more Sierra stuff. We had 2403 or 240203, just some little indexing things that we were noticing, some other little details. 240204, which had a few more things. Again, more of that like kind of real partner specific things. Koha, some more Palace Project as more and more people are setting that up. Sierra, just some little search things and that kind of thing. So good things that we do, just care and feeding of Aspen, care and feeding of our partners to make sure that everything is looking good. Then we'll jump into releases. So 240210, we had a partner going live midway through this release cycle, so we did a .10 release for them. A lot of that was related to evergreen updates, so some things that have been asked for a bit. So some updates to pre-stamps and post-stamps for different call numbers, some different things with masquerade mode related to loading titles on hold if you're masquerading and somebody's never logged in. We had updated to an API a few months ago, and that had actually, we saw a thing that it wasn't doing in terms of hiding hidden items. It had changed the indicator for those. And then um, updates for loading preferred pickup location. So if somebody has preferred pickup location set in Evergreen, when they log in the first time, we'll load their preferred pickup location. A few other just little things. So lots of good stuff with Palace Project. I think we've got close to half a dozen libraries that have Palace Project integration set up now. And getting a tremendous response to that. So a lot of these are kind of subtle. We changed kind of what ID that we're using as part of those Palace Project IDs or Palace Project integration, which some of the Palace Project IDs that they use internally are difficult to interpret in URLs and that kind of thing. So had to make some updates there. As people were loading more Palace Project collections, they were finding, so here's Palace Project for Santa Barbara, who has had amazing response to Palace Project after they set it up. We previously had a suffix on the end of these collections to try to indicate that it was Palace Project. We figured out those weren't necessary. So before this would have said statewide California State Library Grant Palace Marketplace 2023 Palace Project. We trimmed off the Palace Project because that's obvious now. Also made sure that Overdrive, Boundless, Cloud Library titles weren't duplicated within the search results. So good stuff there. We are looking to maybe make these translatable as well. So if you want to combine those two, you could, or shorten them as well. So just give people more flexibility as we start seeing it out in the real world instead of with our test collections. We also then were able to, within the checkouts and expiration dates, we were able to show those within the patient's account. Other cool stuff. So for the library that went live, we did a payment history, which is really cool. So within this will show for any e-commerce, any ILS, you will be able to see a payment history for any payments taken through Aspen. So if somebody comes into the library and pays directly, we won't show that, but we will see anything that you pay through Aspen. That is configured then under your library settings. There is a new payment history section. You check on and say, yes, I want to see the payment history for fines paid in Aspen. It will technically actually show both fines and donations. And then you are able to put information that gets shown at the top of the page. Much like we showed with the Palace Project thing last time, this does allow translations again. And we have a new option where you can delete payment history older than however many days. If you set that to 0, it's not deleting anything. So a nice way if you want to get rid of things, we would suggest like keep stuff for a year or a year and few days so that if you're going through and doing your accounting, you don't have to make sure to do your accounting every month. You can get a year. Once that payment history is deleted, it is deleted, and you don't get it back. Within that then, it will go to, so under fines, if this is turned on, you'll have a payment history. So if we go to payment history, we can see I paid 4 $1 fines back in September of 2022 when I was apparently testing something. Each of these then, so this is the message that shows up. Each of those can have additional details, and this is as much information as we have. So it will depend on what information is included. So if we have it, we are now starting to store the information about like what fine was paid, so what title, and then order IDs, transaction IDs, that kind of thing, so you can help reconcile that. A patron could use this as a receipt if they chose to. So really cool function, and we're really glad that works for all of our e-commerce providers as well as all ILSs. So cool stuff there. Other things, just a note here, and we'll see it again. It was up above as well. But we did some work to improve performance. So just optimizing some of the database lookups. We're always looking to make the performance of Aspen snappier. And we found a couple of good places that hopefully will cut down a lot of the load that we've been seeing and just make it faster. So never ending thing that has to always be done. If we look at 2403, and 2403, because AspenCon is next week, we wanted to make sure that everybody had plenty of time for testing, and I think Jordan will talk about this more later. We're going to push back the release 1 week. So that is the 27th of March when it will appear on your servers. So you will get 2403 on your servers then. 240210 has been deployed just to kind of the people that need it. But if you see something that you love in that, we can always deploy that sooner. Jordan's going to talk through the Aspen LIDA updates, and then I'm going to talk through a few of the other highlights here. We did a bunch of accessibility. We've had several libraries doing accessibility studies. So as they're doing that, we're going through and updating the things that they see. That there were hundreds of places that were updated due to a few kind of common categories of things that help make things work better for screen readers. So just some things like the icons used, like we want screen readers to skip those. If you do have a screen reader, we want to make sure that external links are properly identified as opening a new window and that kind of thing. Some more event stuff. So we've been working on the event integration within LIDA for a bit. There is a new, you can now have a different registration body for LIDA. So when somebody goes to register, you can have a different explanation. That works for the 3 different event platforms that we integrate with. So Library Market, SpringShare, Communico, all of those will now give you an additional one. The big difference there is LIDA doesn't do original HTML, so you need a non-HTML version, and you can also then customize the text to whatever makes sense to your users. Let's go back here. So indexing updates, so we're always working on indexing and always working on making things better for some of those odd cases. So we had a case where a library had e-content being generated from an 856 link, and that title also had items on it that wanted to be where we wanted the format to be determined by the bib record, but the e-content in the 856 was overriding that. So that will now work. So if you have mixed e-content with 856 links and items, and you are using bib level formatting instead of item level formatting, that will all work perfectly now. Again, some more like Koha and Polaris, Sierra updates, Evergreen again, so there's always updates. The next big thing I wanted to talk about was Symphony. We keep working on that self-registration, making that better and better. So we now have the option to copy self-registration forms. And we also have the ability to do a terms of service page that you have to accept before doing your self-registration. So let's look at that real quick. So this is defined in and right now this only works for Symphony. So under ILS integration, you will have your self-registration form and your self-registration terms of service. You'll go through and define your terms of service. Where you can define, you give it a name, and then the text of it. If somebody declines it, you can give additional things saying, thank you for being interested in the library card. We're sorry you didn't accept our terms of service, and here's what to do if you want. That then gets hooked into your self-registration form. So if we go into our default, we choose, in this case, I just have a general standards of conduct that would apply to all of those. Then when we go through and do a sign in, so now if we say, hey, if you don't have a library card, we can register for a new card. That will then take us to the terms of service page. If we say you don't accept, that displays that information. If we do accept, we can go back to the login page. Let's register again. If you don't accept, you get that, or you can read the terms again. Once you accept that, you go through to the self-registration page where you enter all of your information, and there is still the option. So because you have read that and accepted it, this is checked automatically. If you had not gotten through that, the workflows all do it, but if for some reason you had bookmarked that page or something, it would not be checked. You can always get to the terms of service that way. So cool update there for libraries wanting to do that. Let's see, one last option that I'm going to talk about before I turn it over to Jordan is just we're always doing little things for bug fixes and that kind of thing. This is kind of it's a check that we've talked about in the past a little bit, but we're dealing with some of the cases now where people are like logging out in one tab and then doing stuff in an old tab. So if you have 2 tabs open, you're both logged in with the same account, log out as one, and then log in as somebody else, and then go back to one of the original pages. We're just checking some of that to make sure that like you are logged in as who you say you are based off your last login and that kind of thing. So good, like extra just checks to make sure that everybody's doing the right kind of thing. I'm just gonna check the chat real quick to see if there's anything to address. Nope. Sarah and Barbara saying they love the Palace Project integration. It is great and fun. We're loving it too. And yeah, the receipt. Fine payment history right now would not show refunded transactions, so it'll only show the information that we have within Aspen. So, and since that refund doesn't happen through Aspen, we would probably need to do some development just to let you mark something within Aspen as having been refunded. But yeah, interesting idea. Like, please put in a ticket with that so that we can think about that some more. Any other questions on any of this, or I will throw it over to Jordan. All right.
Thanks, Mark. And I will say one thing with that history too is remember you have the text box that lets you kind of give instructions to the patron, because it's also only going to show things that happened in Aspen. It won't show like when your staff does a payment, when the patron actually comes in. So that's just something to keep in mind, and why that we put that text box there so you could explain how that history works. Okay, trying to get my phone shared. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about the updates with Lita. We did have a good number of bug fixes, and you can check those within the release notes, but I want to show you the fun stuff. So the first thing is with the events in Lita, we now have the ability to add events to browse categories. So you can see at the top here, I have the baby events with the browse categories. Just like you can in Discovery, this was already a feature of Discovery. We're just getting all of the events functionality from Discovery into Aspen. And we are actually looking at more ways to get patrons to events. We haven't incorporated the Explore More bar within the search results. We're not sure that's the best in a mobile app. So if you have ideas in that area, please feel free to reach out to us, put in a ticket. Okay, so that's events and browse categories. The next thing I want to talk about is the Palace project integration into Lita. So I'm going to go ahead and do a search. Oop, I meant to search for spring, but we'll see what comes up for spiny. So one thing, if you click into filters, I am going to go. This is what happens when you don't search the thing you meant to search. Maybe we don't have any books, any e-content on that. So let's go back and actually search. Oh, it said e. We'll do it the right way. The first one looked like an ebook. That's very weird. Why? I must be typing this wrong. Okay, my N was not going. There we go. Okay, so if I go into filters, there it is. I'm looking for my e-content collection filters. So one thing that we did in addition to Palace Project with Lita is make sure that your settings for the e-content that has changed names displays correctly. So if you remember, Access 360 changed to boundless, so this now says boundless. You also have the settings where you can decide what these are called. So for example, we changed all the overdrive ones to Libby, but within the discovery settings, we've said we want this one to display as Libby overdrive. So you can do that too. So did want to point out that those in Lita are now consistent. But what I really want to talk about is the Palace bookshelf down here and the Palace marketplace. So I'm going to select one of these to narrow down my results. And then I get all these titles should have Palace Project available. So I come in here. On a Spring Evening is available from the Palace Project. I can check that out in the Palace. Oh, that's very weird. Of course, live demo. I did this one right ahead of time. Let's try a different title. But I'm guessing there might be something going on with the API if we're getting that kind of one. Okay, there's something going on with that book. This one worked. Checkout title, we can go to checkouts. And here you see all of my titles. These bottom few are checkouts from the Palace project. So this is the one that I just checked out. I'm going to click on it and I can also return it. So that's the functionality of getting Palace project into Lida. One other thing that we did that I can't show very easily here is we did a lot of UI enhancements to the tablet size screen. So the components for Lida were looking a little small and larger tablets, a little bit too much white space. So Kirsten went in there and just kind of cleaned them all up. So your Lida is probably looking a lot better on tablets after this release. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. But before I hand it back to Miranda, I do want to reiterate what Mark said. The release, we are delaying a week. The week of AspenCon is the week when we typically do our heaviest period of testing. And I know that you all want us to test things before we release them. So we're going to move that testing week to the week after and delay the release by a week. You will get the new version of Aspen 2403 on Wednesday, the 27th. We push about all out to you on Tuesday night.